I'm Jonny Smith.
I'm Richard Porter.
And this is Smith and Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things. Bowel detailing. That was...
I'm sorry.
Bowel detailing. We've all done it, I'm sure, have we? Detailing's all the rage these days. I bet people detail their kitchen these days instead of just cleaning it.
What was the first word you said?
Well, it was an answer to a question that you might ask me at some point today, which is, what did you do last weekend? And the answer to that was, I drove the new 911 hybrid to a colonoscopy, Richard. That's what I did.
Oh, my God. I thought that's what you said. Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah. Had to be inspected and...
Right.
Yeah, detailed beforehand, which is quite... Well, I just thought I'd share this with the listeners because...
What a wonderful start to Britain's number one car podcast.
No, I'm not being unnecessarily grim. I just thought, I had to have an inspection, and the inspections it's important for your health and things because I had to have something removed. But the prep beforehand is the harsh one. I mean, basically turns your innards into a jet wash, which is interesting. But I had on the upside, Rich, drove the new 911 GTS there and back to the hospital.
Oh, thank God.
So that we're bringing it round to a car-themed podcast.
How is it?
It's a really impressive car. It's unusual because I can't work out where the power struggle within the 911 world is now, because of course everything's turbo now, and this hybrid, as you probably know, the one I drove was a Cabrio GT4S, so it's GTS, so it's four-wheel drive. It's got electric motor assistance on the front end. It's got a single turbo that spools up with an electric motor, so there's loads of tech inside. But when you just forget all of that and you just drive it, the sort of the roll-off brake and just instantaneous shove is ridiculous because it doesn't feel like a turbo car. It sounds like a weird turbo car, like when you really gun it through the back kind of firewall. And yes, it's effing quick. But then all 911s are quick. I don't know if anyone's driven a 992 of any derivative, they're all really fast, begging the question why anyone would buy a Turbo S version, because you just literally couldn't use it anywhere. But and then somebody on Instagram, I think they were called Alex Dunlop, said that we'd missed a trick because it's actually a 992.2. I believe, yeah. So
yes, it is.
So now I'm wondering whether or not, when I've made a bit more money, and obviously got maybe 25, 30 Preludes in my hangar at my crib, I might in the middle have like a 992.2 just to show keep myself grounded, see what real people drive. Yeah, like this is what they normally drive, like a 911 Porsche or that with turbo.
Have we ever discussed this about other cars that have 2.2 in their name?
Have a
2.2 litre engine?
I don't think we ever have. I think Alex. See, I replied to Alex on Instagram from our Instagram handle, going, bloody hell, I wish I'd thought of 992.2. Believe, and I didn't. So. It was. I don't think I have, because there's a lot of stroker cars which are taken out to 2.2 for either special versions or competition versions in the past. Usually a 2 litre that's been warmed over, as they say in the old days.
Gone over, as it were. Yes.
So maybe we should open open things up to the audience. 2.2. Find us your best one. Find another.
Well, because there's a thing. I mean, engine capacity is one thing. We were talking about Fronteras last week, wasn't the Frontera 2.2?
I think the Frontera was 2.2. Actually, is the Ford Ranger, can you get a Ford Ranger in a 2.2 now?
There was a 3.2, but I don't know.
That's
Hang on,
not legal
Frontera
tender.
2.2. Yeah, Frontera 2.2 DTI. But I think was there not a petrol one as well? Anyway, well, let's not get bogged down in that because there's quite a few. But it reminds me of, do you know, there's sort of engine capacities you don't get much of.
Yeah.
And I think 2.2 is reasonably. I think, weren't those Honda diesels in the Accord? Were they 2.2?
They were 2.2. Is it CDTI?
CDTI, yeah.
Yeah.
CDT class.
Which is, just reminds me of a GCSE. Yeah.
Yes, sawing up bits of wood. But do you remember the Jaguar X-Type, the entry-level front-wheel drive one?
Yeah. With
the petrol engine? They called it a 2-litre, but it wasn't. It was technically a 2.1.
Oh.
I was like, 2.1 is a weird capacity.
It's a very weird capacity. I can only think of one other manufacturer that did a 2.1.
Who's that?
Which was Audi.
Oh.
The 5-cylinder in the original coupes and quattros, you could get it as a... Am I getting this right? You could get it as a 2.2 litre, 2.1 or a 2.2, and there were so few. There was so few numbers to derive what meant what. Because I remember when I owned one, I couldn't work out whether one was a 2.1 or a 2.2 because it's like 2144 cc.
They just slightly changed the stroke or something.
I actually have never thought about what it meant. I should have spoken to the Classic Audi forum first before we recorded this morning. But
then that engine went out to a 2.3 as well, didn't it?
Oh, it might have gone 2.3. Yeah, so I think the early ones were 2 litre and 2.1, and they went up to 2.2, if my memory serves me correct. And they've got letters like KV. Mine was the KV block, and there were other ones. But when I was in the game looking for obsolete parts, I used to know these things off by heart, but now I don't, because my hard drive is not that big, unfortunately.
Well, but it's also like 1.7. Renault used to do a 1.7, didn't they? But that's a weird capacity as well.
Isuzu Turbo Diesel was a 1.7, wasn't it? The one that went in the Cavalier.
It was.
Which was a really good engine.
Yes, it did. Was it?
That was a really good engine that was 80s turbo diesel, so that was early days of a diesel with some performance. And my mate's dad had a company car that was a Cav turbo diesel, and he got insured on it, and I was very impressed with it back then. I don't think it was as good as the French, because they were the leaders, weren't they, really?
Well, yeah, your TUD.
That's right.
State of the art, back in the day. Do you remember when they updated the Ford Granada and it went from being a 2.3 and a 2.8 to being a 2.4 and a 2.9? At the time, it seemed incredibly zany. Like, those weren't capacities anyone did.
No,
not in common usage.
Yeah, 2.9.
It's like, just go on, just round it up. Make it a 3 litre. What's wrong with you?
I was going to say, yeah, and of course, when they did the old RS ones years ago, they did a 3100. And I've always like,
yes.
That's, I mean, nothing screams homologation like a really odd number like that. A
3.1. 3.1 is definitely one for the weird engine capacities gallery. Although, was there an American V6 that was a 3.1?
Yes, I'm sure there was.
One of those absolutely tossy V6s, a 3.1 litre, but it makes 87 horsepower.
Yeah.
With 190 pound-feet of torque.
I'm pretty sure the Pontiac Aztec that I had on a TV show about a decade ago, I'm pretty sure that had a 3.1 V6. And that was a 4-wheel drive, which is why I bought it. And
hang on, let's have a look.
And I bet it was sub 100 horsepower from memory.
So,
but it was running on like sour cream levels of like Ron.
That's the thing. You can basically feed it petrol that's just brackish water with bits in it, and it'll still basically wheeze along, making 29 horsepower. According to Wikipedia, the Aztec had a 3.4 V6.
Oh, so I've got that wrong, cock.
Making a rippling 11 horsepower on regular gasoline. No, it doesn't say. I can't see.
I miss the Pontiac Aztec.
Horror.
I think I've realised, because there's so few new cars being released right now that genuinely excite me, and I feel genuinely treaded a unique path. I am looking to these cars that were totally derided. They were mocked. And actually, there's some good to some of those. I mean, I know you and I, we have a penchant, a lot of the listeners have a penchant for a fairly cack car.
Yeah.
But if you're parking that for a second, there's been some really good innovation on those cars, which were largely laughed at and just forgotten. Case in point, so many new cars I test, and this might sound a bit dad spec, but so many new cars I test simply haven't got a good enough boot. They simply don't have a good enough boot. They don't. And if you're going to drive around in a big car, listen, if you drive a coupe, I get it. Boot space is not at the top of your list. If you're driving around in some sort of SUV crossover thing, which is a large car and you're probably buying it to be capacious for occupants, blah, 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 why is the boot so average? I'm not going to have an average boot on a large car. That's just a shit idea.
Well, I suppose they're reasoning that if you're buying that particular car, it's not for the boot, because if you wanted the boot, you'd buy a SUV or something, or a crossover. But
well, that's what I mean. Those boots are usually rubbish. So few of them are excellent.
Have you seen the boot on recent generation Aston Martins, the DB11, DB12, and so on?
Oh my gosh, I haven't. No, I haven't. I've not driven a DB11.
I think you'd be driven into a rage. It's weirdly small, but it's also, the bulkhead is sort of further towards you than you think. It's like, like a cheap rented flat where they've put up a stud wall to make two rooms out of one.
Yes.
But it's not quite in the right place and it makes everything claustrophobic. Yeah. It's like that. You sort of go, oh, I'll just pop this in the... does this move? No, it doesn't move. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's a very small, or smaller than you think, boot. And I think the new Vanquish is similarly afflicted. I haven't seen it, but...
that's so weird, because... And I know I'm one of these sad journalists, obviously, that like Porsches, but going back to this hybrid GTS that I had, being a cabrio, so I was doing the school run in it as well as work trips. It's got back seats, which admittedly 2+2, not a 2.2. Yeah. So I had my 13-year-old lad in the back. So anything more than about half an hour, he was not massively happy about, but under half an hour, it's doable. And then it has obviously a huge front boot. Yeah. It's also got a weird back boot, which part of the cabrio lifts up to reveal.
What?
It's got a back boot.
I didn't know that.
No,
weird.
I don't know if anybody uses them, or it was news to me, because I was thinking, hang on a minute. So here we are. Think of the packaging here. We're in a supercar fast Porsche 911, which has got two boots, a back seat that is usable for children definitely under teenage years, and very comfortable on a long journey. And this one happens to be a full cabrio, so all that mechanism has to go up and down and go into somewhere. It probably made me scratch my bald spot going, this is so impressive. When you consider, like, the Jaguar F-Type, when that came out, you remember the F-Type convertible, which had a boot the size of a shoebox?
Well, now, I would defend the F-Type on that score, because I borrowed one and I had to go away filming for a few days and I had to take loads of stuff.
You didn't.
And it was surprising. No, I just gaffer taped it all to the boot lid on the outside. It's fine. Rucksack with a laptop in it. No problem at all.
Oh, so
it's weird. And then what happened was, we finished filming and one of my colleagues was like, are you driving back to London? And I said, yes. He went, I don't suppose I could have a lift, could I? And we got two, admittedly sort of soft bags, but still sort of hold all type things, and a couple of rucksacks and some other gubbins, like some outdoor shoes or wellies or whatever. And because that boot, it looked tiny, but it had a sort of under part.
Oh, good.
And you weren't sure how far back it went. You could slide stuff under there, and we got everything in that boot without having to sort of like two men slamming the boot lid aggressively. So I'm not sure the F-Type was as chronically shit as it first appeared, although it wasn't exactly a massive boot, and it's only a two-seater.
Well, and I also, don't get me wrong, I'm not being down on the F-Type, because as we go further away from that car, let's ignore the facelift because I thought the facelift looked genuinely sad. But the prior to the facelift, that car, there's a coupe that V6S that tools around near me.
Yeah,
and that's the one I would want. And and I just think from every angle it looks so impressive. And my daughter, who's thankfully inherited some supreme car taste, she just looks at that and every time she goes, "That car's such a good looking car, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, wind the window down." So we always put the window down in case they gun it away. And it does sound great. And I think that's a good value car.
Yeah,
now.
It's funny because we were behind an F-Type coupe in traffic a while ago, and unprompted, my wife just went, "That's such a good looking car."
It is.
Which is interesting. There's somebody we know who worryingly is a magazine editor of car magazines who doesn't think the F-Type's good looking.
Yeah, but what do they think is good looking? Because I know a very successful car reviewer, TV presenter in our world who really thinks like the front of a Bentega's good. So I have to tread carefully with him.
I can't. I'm going to try and guess who that is.
But this is the thing, isn't it? It's beauty's in the eye of the cup holder and all that. You know what I mean?
Do you know what F-Types are down to now?
25.
Oh my gosh, Jonathan.
What?
Be prepared to go shit off in a slightly loud voice. £14,990.
Shit right off. No way.
Now, I grant you this is just a basic V6. It's in a lovely colour. It's a sort of bluey grey. I don't think I've seen this before. And it's on some, what I think are really good wheels, although they are black.
What are they, Ronald Teddy Bears? 14s?
That's right, yes. There's some of those absolutely terrible three-spokes they fitted to early Freelanders.
Softline three-spokes. Oh, wow.
No, do you remember there's some factory... Land Rover went through a period of liking three-spoke wheels, and the P38 Range Rover was available. I think the base model came as standard on some absolutely tossing, awful three-spokes. You know, but then when the Freelander came out, you could get the Freelander on at least one optional style of three-spoke. Just an absolute crime. Anyway, this F-Type looks superb.
You can get Range Rover Classic three-spokes in bigger sizes, I believe, now.
Yeah, and they don't look right. I don't mind. If I'm going to make any exception, I think a classic 80s Range Rover on those three-spokes.
On the Vogue wheels.
The Vogue wheels, yeah. I could just about live with that, but people are resto-modding them now and putting bigger repro ones on.
Yeah.
And it just makes me feel slightly bilious. But this F-Type, shiting heck. I mean,
15k.
It's under 15 grand, just under £15,000. It's being sold by a dealer. It's got 91,000 miles on it. It's a 2013. They have, I mean, it's got loads of, I always worry when dealers put, as this one has, drives smoothly without any issues.
Oh, yes.
It's just like, like you'd point out the issues if it did have them. But I know they suffer from rot, these cars. They're an aluminium body. Yeah, they have subframe rot, I believe.
Right.
Is an issue. So something to look out for. Cheapest coupe, again, it's just a basic 3-litre V6, is $15,250.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
And the engine was replaced 10,000 miles ago.
Shitting.
It's black.
That sounds amazing.
It's very pretty. The cheapest S, $16,995 for an S Cabrio on really good wheels, black. Oh man, look at this. Sorry, this is great audio.
Well, we can't
look at this, but black with cream leather, and it's an S, and it looks shatting magnificent, and it's got 106,000 miles on it, but you know,
have you got the company
condition,
credit card,
not mileage?
Have you got it handy? You know those shopping channels,
fortunately,
QVC,
no.
Where you just go on.
There's a grey S on these sort of turbine-like wheels that looked a lot like the biggest wheels on the late Saab 9.5s.
Yes.
That's not a criticism.
No. I
really like them. You don't see them a lot on F-Types, but this one is 17,495, and it looks smashing. 93,000 miles. Anyway, we could browse F-Types all day, but It's food for thought, isn't it?
That's amazing food for thought. That's nourishment for the automotive soul. That's what that is.
If you're an F-Type owner and you want to tell us about how it's been, write to us, hello@smithandsniff.com. Title your email, "My subframe is fine, how dare you?"
Yeah.
And let's take a little straw poll about what's going on out there in F-Type land, because they're bloody tempting.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, for that money.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, they're really nice. Hey, while we're on the subject of people emailing in, for complicated reasons, as you know, Jonny, we've sort of been asked if we want to go to Australia to do a live show.
Yeah, we have.
But it's quite a long way away. And so there's various sort of moving parts to this. But we were asked, do you think there would be an audience in Australia? And we went, yeah, we get loads of messages from Aussie listeners. But then it sort of felt like that's not evidence enough. If you're an Australian listener and you would like us to come to your country and do a live show, probably I would guess in Sydney or Melbourne, because they're the sort of two biggest population centres.
It'd be hard to do an outback tour. I think it's probably...
I would say Alice Springs we may be pushing our luck, although it would be good fun.
But it would be good fun.
I don't know, maybe we'll do Sydney and Melbourne since we're there. You know, we're in the area, sort of. But anyway, if you're vaguely interested in coming to see us live in Australia, why not drop us a line, hello@smithandsniff.com, and I don't know, make your subject line... Come to Oz, you bastards. Yeah, that'd do it.
Yeah, bastard. Why?
Just come to Oz. We'll probably do it and it won't get caught by any swear filters. But
Wizard sleeve to Oz?
No.
No, okay.
That doesn't even make sense.
Oh, the Wizard is the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. We're just looking. Basically, we're just cravenly asking for your endorsements so that we can say to some people, "Hey, it's worth us coming to Australia." So
there's in excess of 12 of you that we're coming over for.
Yes, well, that's it, isn't it? It's like if we can get to 14, I think it's worth getting on a plane. Yeah. But we'd just like to know if anyone in Australia gives a flying toss about coming to see a live show without having to come to us. Well, in the UK. Yeah, looking forward to hearing from you. Jonny, the up-tempo Euro music means it's time once more to talk about Texaco Techron. But this time, I'd like to question you while doing an impression of Jimmy Nail. Can you do an impression of Jimmy Nail? Not really. Right, well, the first thing to know is that fuel contains cleaning agents called deposit control additives, which are really important for your engine, but the amount of these additives in the fuel can vary significantly. Why, hey man, what are these additives for? They're formulated to remove the deposits that are generated as the fuel burns, but if you don't use an additive, you're more likely to experience issues with your vehicle because the deposits may not have been tackled so well. That sounds right, Canny. What problems do these deposits cause, like? A build-up of deposits can lead to all sorts of problems, including a loss of power and a drop in fuel economy. So, how can Texaco Techron help, like? Techron is a concentrated fuel system cleaner that gets right to the root of the problem, helping to break down harmful engine deposits with one bottle dosage. I've used it in a few barn finds on the Late Break Show, and I've seen improved performance when added to my 330,000-mile Honda Insight Hybrid. I've got a box full of this Techron potion, and I'm going to treat all my fleet to a dose of it as soon as this podcast is over. That's really canny and that's pet. And Techron is available for petrol engines and as Techron D for diesel engines too. You'll see that it's available to buy on Amazon, eBay, or through Arnold Clark. Cracking! So suitable for me Sierra Sapphire RS Cosworth. Richard, you're not spender. Reet, I forgot who I was there. Didn't you know, pet, that canny like the same fog thing, ding, ding, ding. For goodness sake, stop it. When people describe cars incorrectly, we all get a bit irritated about that. Yeah. I've just watched a video over breakfast this morning of a chap waxing lyrical about a classic car that he bought, that he was saying it's an absolute survivor. Wow, look at the condition. It's completely unmodified. It's unrestored. And then he said, let's take a deeper look into this car. And then I carry on watching. And then he says, yeah, look at the bodywork. Isn't it amazing? Wow. It was repainted at some point. Okay, so not original then.
And then he said, and then pop the engine bay. Wow, the engine bay, it runs so nicely. This is the original engine. It was rebuilt at some point. Okay, so again, the umbrella title to this, unrestored, completely original, is crumbling fast, isn't it?
And now let's bring on my friend Trigger. Trigger, I see you're carrying a broom. Yeah. Tell me about that.
It was amazing. And then he said, "Oh, this car's got the optional front splitter, which is quite rare to see these days. And this one's in spectacular condition." And the gets down on his knees. He gets down on his knees and goes in for a close-up, and then goes, "Oh, it's actually quite stone damage, and there's a split there next to the towing eye." And you go, again, so not spectacular condition, is that? Goodness me.
I mean, I feel like that person is not alone in overselling in the description for a YouTube video. There's a lot of it's about, I mean, not least, you won't believe. No, I probably will.
I probably will, actually. Yeah.
You won't believe what I found in the boot of my new car. What is it? It's a Tesco bag. Okay, great. That's pretty believable.
Words can't. I can't put into words how excited I am right now about this crazy thing, which is probably not entirely crazy. And then I just want to say, take 5, turn the camera off, come up with some words to describe it with, because ultimately that's your fucking job. And then put then put the camera back on again, and then just try and really describe what we're dealing with here. Because if you say words can't describe, I think, unless, I don't know, your brother who you thought had died turned up on your doorstep, I'm going to say the circumstances have to be so extreme that words won't.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know. It's like, I've seen people calling this out, I think correctly, when sports commentators, particularly football commentators, go, "You couldn't script this." And you go, well, yeah, you could, because you can put anything in a script. I mean, Star Wars, for example, the documentary series Star Wars. Like this, you can script whatever you want.
You couldn't script this. I think I could.
Yeah, no, you could. No, really, you could. Give me 10 minutes and I'll see if I can knock up a scene for you where somebody scores a goal immediately after scoring their first goal.
They think it's
you
all
couldn't
over.
script this. You could. You literally could, and people have.
Surely every combination of football game has been done anyway, pretty much, hasn't it? Surely. Do you think?
I don't know. Every combination. I mean, statistically, you mean like sort of first goal in the 22nd minute, second goal in the 24th, and everyone's very excited, and then the opposition scores a goal in the 39th minute, and then it's half time. And has that ever happened at precisely the same times?
Yeah. Find another game.
Feels like this is where, because I don't hate football. Like, I can happily watch a game of football, but I'm not a massive sort of trenchant fan. But I used to watch fantasy football with Baddiel and Skinner.
Oh yeah.
Even though I didn't understand half the jokes, the half that I did understand, I really enjoyed. I thought it was a great show. It had a really good atmos, and it was a sort of low-level influence when we brought Top Gear back in 2002, to the extent they had that character who sat on the other side of the set, Stato. Do you remember? Did you ever see that show?
No.
And if they were having an argument about, well, are you sure that's the first time he scored before the 10-minute mark? And they go, Stato, is it true? And he would be the sort of fact nerd.
Oh, so it was a bit like, is it The Chase or one of those sorts of shows where you've got a fact person who fact checks stuff?
Oh, well, sort of like the way that Richard Osman used to be on Pointless.
That's it, Osman.
Yeah, sort of like that. And we auditioned a load of people to be a Stato on Top Gear before deciding that we didn't need it, but we were going to have a Stato in the studio to check car nerd facts.
It could have been you, surely.
It could have been me. Sort of, now I'm saying it feels like exactly the sort of tediously pedantic role that I could take to, but didn't really occur at the time. I honestly can't remember what we were talking about. I thought we were
going to talk about Rail Moat.
Oh, yes, because of the... Yes.
Didn't I send you I sent you a message, a WhatsApp message from a listener, which really made me... Oh, I know. I say listener. He's actually a friend of mine.
Friends can listen.
Yeah, that's true. He's both. Tom Smith, aka the Blast Smith, the dry ice blasting man, who sent me, because he trawls Facebook Marketplace for uninteresting cars, and he's a brave man, because I wouldn't. But I'm just scrolling back through here to try and find it, because it is bloody funny. Oh, here it is. Right, on my phone here. From the Volvo Owners UK Facebook group. Ex-police Volvo S60 2.4 T5, currently on 198,000 miles. Full police service history many years after. Genuine 17-inch Volvo Arrestes, I think that's the name of the alloy wheel design. With
sorry, what? Arrestes?
Yeah, Orestes. Orestes?
Sorry.
Orestes?
I thought it was like Arrestes, like as in, it's an ex-police car, and it's got Arrestes sounds like some kind of WD-40 for making it easier to arrest people. Suffering a sticky arrest? Just squirt on a couple of shots of Arrestes. You'll have them in custody much more smoothly.
Oh, that's a good point. Actually, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Even so, I don't know what to arrest. How do you say Arrestes?
Orestes. Orestes. Is it Orestes? Is it Spanish or?
Oh, Orestes.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're those 5-spoke. They're quite handsome wheels, those. They're the ones that are on a lot of.
Yeah, but maybe they were specifically for police spec cars, because they're called Orestes. Orestes. So it says 3.
But it's sort of. It has most of the word testes in it, so it's sort of somehow funny. But anyway, go on.
The screenshot of the ad I've got is just a couple more things listed. 310 brake, underneath is mint, full straight pipe, sounds insane. Genuine Volvo parts fitted, including water pump, cam belt, aux belt, plugs, dampers, springs, drop links. Ceramic coated 5 years ago. But right at the end, they popped in this little nugget. The car was used in the hunt for Raoul Moat. Have photos of it as a police car, and also it featured in the documentary. Car has an interesting story. MOT till December 2025. So, if anyone's listened who isn't familiar with Raoul Moat, we'd laugh because he has got a funny name, but he was actually a very evil man. He was a cop killer, right? And went on the run in a distinct car up in Northumbria.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if he got shot by the police in the end. I can't remember, but he shot a police officer and drove away in a Lexus IS 200. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
With a body kit, but I remember when the hunt was on for him, because he was on the run, I'm pretty sure it had a space saver wheel, and that's what made it distinctive. I remember the news saying that it's an IS 200 with a body kit, and it has one space saver wheel. So presumably, when he's on the run, not doing more than 52 miles an hour or whatever those space savers are supposed to do. So yeah, the Raoul Moat ended up. I think he ended up. He took somebody hostage.
Yeah, he shot a police officer, and then I think he took his own life in the end after a standoff. And the weird thing was, apart from my vivid memory is that he had a Lexus IS.
Yeah,
that the standoff with the police took place on, I think, the eve of the British Grand Prix.
Did it?
Or possibly it might have been the Friday night of British Grand Prix weekend, because I was staying in a hotel near Silverstone doing some stuff for 5 Live, and we were all sitting in the hotel bar having a beer. I think David Crofty Croft, the commentator, was there as well.
Yeah.
And we were watching this story unfold on the screens in the bar, going, "What? This is a bizarre story." I probably accidentally saw that Volvo with its testes alloys, but then they announced that Paul Gazza Gascoigne had turned up.
That's
at
right.
The standoff location with a roast chicken and a fishing rod, I think.
That's right. He did, or a KFC bucket, and saying, "Come on, stop all this, put the gun down. We can do some fishing and eat some.
Yeah, because I think the story was that Raoul Moat had been a bouncer at nightclubs in Newcastle, and Gazza knew him from going to those nightclubs, and so he was trying to be helpful, but it gave the whole thing a slightly surreal, expecting to wake up at any minute and go, "You wouldn't believe what I dreamt last night," but actually it was all happening. There is a very interesting but slightly troubling book about Raoul Moat. I think it's called "You Are Raoul Moat," and it's sort of kind of written from his perspective.
Really?
Yeah, it's really well done and here we go. It's called "You Could Do Something Amazing with Your Life," brackets, "You Are Raoul Moat," by Andrew Hankinson.
Interesting.
And it's really, really interesting, but also it's kind of gives the whole backstory to who Raoul Moat was and why he ended up in that situation. Quite a troubled character, but I still, this is why I kind of go, oh no, it was actually quite a sad story. I don't know why you'd advertise a Volvo.
No.
And include this as a selling point. It's like it was a police car.
Yeah.
It probably went to lots of crimes.
Yeah. And probably a lot of fairly sour crimes because, I mean, there's not that many lovely crimes, is there really? Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, did you see that documentary about murder? Yeah, my car was in that. And you go, was it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, yeah, Raoul Moat's back. Volvo.
Raoul Moat's back. That is quite weird.
It is.
You sent me, I'm not sure when or how or where, some extra information about the Frontera man that we were talking about last week.
Yeah. So I've put it on the Smith and Sniff Instagram, if anybody follows that or cares, because, we were contacted. I thought I did get permission to put it up as a post with some screen grabs. A lovely listener called Tom Garwood. His sister knew Craig Williams, and she sent messages to everybody saying that he'd messaged her and loads of other people in their group the night before he was going to drive up Snowdon again for the second time. This was. And apparently, according to if you look at it on it, so he says, "Hi guys, my sister knew the guy that drove up Snowdon and he wanted all his friends to spread the word before his second attempt. He even got her to put on a Facebook status letting everybody know." I've got a screenshot that I can send through, which we've put. Although, as we all know, it wasn't him that drove up for the second attempt. It was the guy that left an anonymous note claiming that he did it faster. And he's put, I have additional news from my sister. The only reason he did it a second time is because his mates took the piss out of him for not making it to the peak on the first attempt. And so he just did it all again. Just amazing. In the same car, of course.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to say he didn't think that through.
I'm going to say that as well.
Was there the bit you sent me, was there not a bit where they said it cost him a fortune to get it back down again the first time?
Yeah, there's a photo that I've put on our Instagram which shows the Frontera loaded up to the back of the Snowdonia mountain train. So that's the picture I put on the Patreon as well to illustrate how it got down again. But there must have been a crane up there, surely, or the ramps. Maybe they ramped it on. Either way, like, did he leave the keys in the Frontera, or did they have to break into it? Knowing him, and he probably didn't want anyone to damage the steering lock or whatever, he probably just left the keys in it because he thought, well, nobody's going to nick it, are they? The police don't nick stuff, really. Also, did he? I feel we're getting a little into the weeds on the Frontera up Snowdon story, but screw it. It's just, did he time it so that he would arrive at the summit in time for daybreak so that he could walk back down again? Yes. Or did he have to sit up there and wait until it was light enough to safely walk back down? I think he just ran away. I think he's one of them. By the way, somebody in our YouTube comments, we put this podcast as an audio thing only on YouTube. Somebody found the reg of the Frontera, someone called Conkerman01. Hello, Conkerman. Said that car died in 2012, according to the DVLA. Yeah, not a massive surprise. Although a few people did point out that it was indeed a Frontera Spout.
Yes.
Spout. I don't know what the difference was. Was the Spout version the one that had a cut down back? Like the...
Yes, but I thought all of the short wheelbase Fronteras were called Spout, and the 5-door was just sort of Frontera. I think it was called Frontera Station Wagon at one point, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Spouts. We haven't done much Spouts on this here podcast for a while, have we?
Can I also just say a big thank you to a patron called Lennart Mackinnon, who pointed out
He's a regular.
that the short wheelbase Frontera and the long wheelbase, they both had side hinged tailgates, but for reasons that none of us can work out, they were hinged on the opposite sides.
Really?
And I just can't work out why that would be. It's slightly scrambling my brain. Lennart also says that the short Frontera was the poor man's Sport Quattro. It was extremely exciting with that wheelbase, high roll centre and lockable all-wheel drive.
Oh my gosh, I bet it was. Because
we also had a couple of people who said that Fronteras were toss, and they know because they had them. So
I want to say that they weren't, but I've got no evidence.
No, they were.
Because I never owned one.
Also, we were looking for car and mountain rhymes for reasons I can't even remember now, of the Three Peaks Challenge in the UK.
Yeah.
I wasn't going crazy. I was convinced there was some Toyota or something like that. There is. Chris Mackay was the first person to point out Toyota Brevis is a JDM saloon.
A Brevis?
Yeah, so a Brevis at Ben Nevis would work. if you can find one and you can be bothered. Since we seem to be down a very wide alley of back refs to last week, I realised we were talking about Kendrick Lamar and his Buick GNX on stage at the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And I didn't mention that actually the GNX was the second thing that really caught my eye about his Super Bowl halftime show. The first one was his incredible bootcut trousers. They were so... Honestly, it was just like, I hope he didn't go to the gents before he came on stage, because you'd be able to see the moisture seepage up the back. They were touching the floor. It was incredible. I couldn't actually work out. Initially, I thought they were sort of some incredibly fashionable jeans that I don't know about, and that they were sort of hooked under his shoes. But no, they were just so bootcut that they touched the floor. It was.
I didn't see that.
An incredible example of the bootcut art.
Well, now I'm going to have to see this. You've reminded me, actually.
It's on YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing, and it is worth it. It's interesting.
Going back to the when we did the live gig off of down in Eastbourne and all that.
Yeah.
This is when you were talking about Billy Joel, and you came up with some alt lyrics which were fun, very fun. It's at this point, reading a letter from a chap called James Morley, that I realise our listeners are infinitely funnier and more intelligent than we are, Rich. I don't know if you've read this letter, but it's unbelievable. It's titled "We Didn't Start the Fire on That Side of Things," which got me giggling. As a long-time listener of Smith and Sniff and a huge Billy Joel fan, I was greatly excited when you brought up some of the lackluster lyrics to the 80s hit "We Didn't Start the Fire." After listening to the episode, I set about rewriting this iconic song to be more relevant to the Smith and Sniff listenership. It goes something like this. By the way, can I just say, this is incredible. I don't know how many days it took him to write this. I'll try and do it some justice, but I probably won't. Secret Panda, Maserati, Mike Brewer does karate, Auto Jumble, Dukes of Hazzard, non-stop talking guy, no name full suspension mountain bike, British Leyland gone on strike, Johnny's brother, find another, cheers mate, thanks mate, bye. Michael Jordan's baggy suits, calling stupid people flutes, John Peel fake bands, Vin Diesel city band, Archbishop counter steer, DSG changing gear, clown face shouts disgrace, rolls a Bedford van. Like snooker with a tram, basically in Nottingham. Brute Sport, Gordon Murray making things lightweight. Honda Prelude 2.2. How can that rev counter do what it do? Max power on the hour, Johnny's greasy mate. Terry Nutkins GT4, 20 push-ups on the Terry Nutkins GT4, 20 push-ups on the floor. Chody shifted, jet towel, Quentin's non-age plate. Nigel Mansell clearance sale. Nigel Mansell clearance sale, wet belt engine set to fail. Odsot, hedge grot, Chardonnay RX8. Roger Moore's wet esprit, James May spilling tea, Fassel Vega Group B, Tales of Comedy, Cobra Headed Eagle Quest, Richard's Rover laid to rest, Liquid Egg, Friends with Greg, what an SSG. Oh my gosh. James Morley, I think.
Flipping heck.
I think we're going to have to do a professional recording of that, if that's all right, for the for this podcast, because that's amazing.
That's some deep back refs as well to the whole of, I mean, it's almost 5 years we've been doing this, and there it is summed up.
Bloody hell, 5 years of just talking.
Wow.
I mean,
thanks, James. So I was in the car with my boy and two of his mates the other day, and in our 24 Tesla, I've got my Apple Music, synced, so you can pull up anything you want to listen to, like you can on your phone. So my boy's sitting in the front, and he starts looking for tracks off of the Fortnite and Minecraft. They sort of have songs in the games and things, and then because they all watch gamers playing the games on YouTube, and some of the gamers have made tracks and things, and they're all on, you can stream them on music platforms. And one of them went, "Oh, do that one about Fortnite's kind of dying." So my boy's typing it in, and it comes up, and it's a parody of "We Didn't Start the Fire."
What?
It's just new words to the tune, with "Fortnite's kind of dying" as the chorus.
Oh my gosh, so it's current affairs now. That's
the thing. So these 3 11, 12-year-olds were singing along to this, and I, in a way that I suddenly went, "Oh my God, I remember my dad doing this to me, going, this is an old song,
Yeah.
I went, because I think actually I went, "This is an old song," and one of his mates went, he said, "This is a parody." And I went, "Yeah, this is a song from when I was a kid. They've just put new words to it." And then we arrived at where we were going. When we got back in the car, I was like, "Hey, I'll put on that old song and I put on 'We Didn't Start the Fire,' and it played for a bit." And then my boy just went, "Is this about history?" And I went, "Yes, it kind of is." And he went,
"Yeah, not impressed."
And then, I don't think they enjoyed it, because the Fortnite version they found relatable, because it's full of references to Fortnite, which they're really into.
Could you name 2 things about Fortnite?
Does it have? It has skins.
Yes, it does.
And does it have servers, or is that Minecraft?
Oh gosh, I know about skins. And you can be Ariana Grande with just like a spray-on suit on with a rifle across your back.
Yes.
I don't really know what that's about.
I know. I do sort of check in to see what my lad's up to when he's playing it, just to make sure that he's not, I don't know, being, doing something he shouldn't.
Do you know?
Although I don't know where the line's drawn there, because he is shooting zombies in the face sometimes. But
I quite like the fact that it's called Fortnite, because I would have thought the terminology for 2 weeks being called Fortnite is quite an old thing to say. Do young people say fortnights? I'll see you in a fortnight's time? I don't think they do.
Well, now it's funny you should mention this, Johnny, because I know the origins of this. Because fortnight may be a bit of an old thing to say, but also Americans don't really say it. It's not a common expression in the US for 2 weeks, no matter how old you are. But that's not where the name comes from.
Right.
I think it's fortnight, as in night of the fort.
Oh, what, a fort is in a castle? Or
yes.
The past tense of fighting?
My son told me the origins of the name Fortnite, And it was something like that. I may not have been entirely listening because he does tell me a lot of things about Fortnite, and I just have to do a bit of, smiling and nodding. It makes me realise that there must have been a lot of my childhood when I was droning on to my parents about the upcoming facelift of the Rover 200 or something, and they were just going, great. Oh, wow, yeah. And actually not really that interested in their son's strange obsessions. So, but yeah, it's something to do with that. I go, shall I look this up? It's definitely, it's not, because I thought that. I was like, how unusual that an American game would have a name that means 2 weeks. It doesn't make much sense. But it's something to do with, see, I should listen to my son, shouldn't I? Learn stuff. Here we go. Fortnite is an online game. It's Battle Royale, that's it. Yes, I knew about that. There's a Battle Royale.
Battle Royale.
See, now I can't find the... Why is it called Fortnite? Yeah. Okay, so it's a combination of the words fort and night, and a play on the British word fortnight, which means 2 weeks.
Well, yeah.
That's it. Here we go. Why is that? So the link that comes up here, fairly high up on the Google search, why is Fortnite called Fortnite? It's from the Radio Times. You sort of think the Radio Times wouldn't have heard of Fortnite. They're too busy just providing something for old people to circle in highlighter pen to remember to watch it on the telly, but I guess that's not what they do now.
Now, we have had a letter from, you were talking about unusual bootcut trousers with Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
We've had a letter from listener Stephen Christie titled Rockstar's Cars, which I immediately swooped into. But there's an awful lot of, there's also some mentions of Marillion and bootcut. So I wonder whether I should quickly try and read this letter to you. Would that be of interest, Richard? Would there?
Oh, why not?
SSGs, although I've enjoyed both of your work for quite some time now, an OG viewer of Top Gear, New Top Gear and the Grand Tour, and first seeing Jonny on Fifth Gear doing a piece on running old diesel Mercs on chip fat a long time ago, I'm quite new to the podcast. To make amends, I've been binge listening on my daily dog walks and also my twice monthly 300-mile driving round trips to both Glasgow and Edinburgh. And I'm almost up to date. Bloody hell, well done. So please forgive me for introducing some older Smith and Sniff topics which have made me laugh out loud many times and perhaps allowed me a little insight into some common themes. I don't know if you'll find any of these interesting, but please feel free to edit. I'm not going to. Aside from my routine proper job, I'm a photographer, and because this isn't my main source of income, I've got the benefit of being able to specialise and do only what I enjoy, and I'm specifically a rock music photographer. Although there are many funny and bizarre anecdotes I could regale from doing this, few are car-related, but there are some. Now, I know that Marillion are a favourite subject of Smith and Sniff that have occasionally reared their soft rock heads on this podcast, and although I haven't photographed the band, I did bump into their live sound guy a few times in 2017 when photographing live shows for other bands. I'll not give his full name, but this sweet, sweet guy's first name is Phil, and Phil is an all too typical roadie of a certain age. He doesn't do emails nor social media, hence I can't easily contact him for further details on this story that he gave me during a sound check for Billy Idol's guitarist, Steve Stevens. You may remember him clad in... No, Steve Stevens is one of the best guitarists in the world. Did you know this?
I know, it's just really funny. There's like this.
He's put in brackets. Steve Stevens, you may remember him entirely clad in PVC in Michael Jackson's Dirty Diana video, as well as delivering the single greatest guitar solo ever in Rebel Yell off of Billy Idol. To digress slightly, he's also the biggest living proponent of the bootcut. Please see enclosed an image from the gig that I shot. He has indeed. He's got a gigantic bootcut wardrobe. Where was I? Oh, yes. Phil was working with Marillion in the Netherlands in the mid-2000s, where they put on a huge annual show called the Marillion Weekender. A real spectacular, bringing fans in from all over the world.
Sorry, Jonny, I've got to stop you for a second. I've just looked at a picture of Steve Stevens and he's got bootcut leather trousers
yes,
on.
He has. Steve Stevens has got an amazing wardrobe, but I will not.
Oh, man.
You can't deny the fact that he's an incredible guitarist.
No, not denying that. Sorry, go on.
A real spectacular Marillion weekender that brings in fans from all over the world and treated them to that many special performances over the few days. One of the biggest fans was Neil Armstrong's son, Rick. Yes, that's right. That's Neil Armstrong. It isn't clear if Rick was working with the... I know. It isn't clear if Rick was working with the band, but he was certainly part of the entourage, and Phil worked alongside him. After the weekender, Phil ended up offering a lift to Rick to Schiphol Airport. Just before the journey started, Rick took a call from his father, who was also in the Netherlands, and was also heading to the airport. Rick asked Phil if he could pick him up on the way, although time would be very tight. Phil absolutely agreed. Who wouldn't want to meet Neil Armstrong? And picked up the pace.
Do you mind if I pick up the first man to walk on the moon? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I guess we can make that accommodation.
Roadie Phil picked up the pace to the rendezvous point. Unfortunately, time was against them, and Phil had to get a real hurry on, in his words, driving like a fucking lunatic. He was concentrating so much to try and catch the flight that there was very little small talk, just some dubious driving with a complete lack of helmsmanship. Phil recalled that they got to the airport somehow just in time, and then it hit him. I've just driven Neil fucking Armstrong. Phil had hardly said a word other than to ask Rick to look out for signs to the airport, and suddenly felt the need to break the ice just as Neil was getting out of the car. I hope my driving wasn't too fast for you, he said, before instantly realising that he was speaking to the man who had travelled faster, further and fearlessly more than anybody else ever. Neil looked at him square in the eye and he said, "You done okay," and disappeared into the terminal. Sadly, I can't contact Phil to ask for details of the car that was used on this skill-bereft yet life-affirming journey, but a little piece of me wishes it was an Eagle Quest Senator. Now that would be something. Mr. Armstrong, the Eagle has landed. Yeah. A constant theme on this podcast is what rock and pop stars drive. Sadly, I can't throw any light on Sade or The Cause, but I do know that Joe Elliott of Def Leppard dailies, as well as Sir David Coverdale of Whitesnake. In 2014, I was tour photographer for Joe's side project, Joe Elliott's Down and Outs. This was a low-key tour in the UK, and Joe was using his own car shared with the tour manager and sound engineer. It was a black BMW X5. Unfortunately, when in Newcastle, Joe took a wrong turning, and it ended up having to pull a 3-point turn in a dead-end street underneath the Tyne Bridge, which resulted in a bollard up the jacksie of the car, not his jacksie. Apparently, this didn't go down too well with him when I found it particularly endearing. He was a genuine rock star, having sold 100 million albums and still playing stadiums all over the world, but getting agitated over his poor manoeuvre and damaged bumper. As Def Leppard are my favourite band and I live in Newcastle, the council should put a blue plaque over that bollard, if you ask me. Whitesnake supported Def Leppard in the UK around that time, and I was shooting their live shows in 2015. Coverdale put on some tour updates around his time on YouTube, one of which shows him driving his Lexus RX from his home in Lake Tahoe to Los Angeles for rehearsals. Sadly, no white satin wizard sleeve blouses were evident in the car, but anyone interested in the fashion for the time for such rock gods, and they are indeed rock gods, should follow an Australian lady called Fleur Thiemann on Instagram, because Fleur was the costume designer for the rock stars of the 80s and is personally responsible for the outfits worn by Whitesnake in videos featuring the white Jaguars and his then wife Tawny Kitaen. As well as those, Ozzy Osbourne in his Alexis Carrington-esque sequined dressing gown, Motley Crue, Kiss and Van Halen, just to name a few. Fleur's biggest claim to fame is being the bestie of Olivia Newton-John and introducing the leg warmer to the fashion industry for the Let's Get Physical music video. Fleur is planning a book on her time in the industry. I'll be the first in the queue to buy that copy. There's a few more things, but we're referring to Brian Johnson and guitarist from Def Leppard Vivian Campbell, who owns Porsches and has raced Subarus, apparently.
You know, sometimes when they have to shut bridges to high-sided vehicles because of extreme winds, I think sometimes they have to shut down a gig due to high winds because Steve Stevens' trousers would simply see him lofted off the stage due to the sheer sail area of the lower leg.
Oh, if he did one of those open stadiums, like the Glastonbury Pyramid stage in one of those South American cities where they're obsessed with metal and heavy rock, I think, he would have to be tethered to the stage. So if he did take flight, it would almost be like a guitarist kite, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
So he could take off a little bit, but he knew he wouldn't go too far left or right.
If you're at the back, you might just innocently believe that Steve Stevens was wearing a jetpack because he'd just sort of hover magically in the middle of a solo.
That would be amazing if the wind went up his trousers and just took him a couple of feet off the ground whilst carefully wanking the axe. It would just be amazing, wouldn't it?
I sort of feel, though, that like the helicopters need a tail rotor to stabilise them, otherwise they just whip around. Yeah. That he might need a fin on his back.
Is that not
to stabilise him?
Long
otherwise,
hair at the back. Would that not suffice?
Maybe the
long at the back.
No, just a fin stitched into a leather jacket might look quite cool.
Like those.
Quite hard to sit down, obviously, on a chair with a back. They'd have to get him an ottoman backstage to sit on, but otherwise, no problems I can see with that at all.
So like those power humps that you get on stitched into motorcycle racers' leathers right behind the helmet.
Yes.
A bit like that
yes.
sort of thing.
Anyway, look, we should bring this to a close, I think.
I was going to say, before we bring it to a close, we should just sign out by saying last week, there was this Formula One pageantry going on. And a few people have written to us to say, what were Red Bull thinking? They've stolen the Stellantis Thunder, Rich. They came on to high energy dance music in a sort of rave Mardi Gras style. And
that immediately made sense to me because Max Verstappen is Dutch.
Oh, for sure.
So it was quite a Euro way to come on.
I would have liked Verstappen to do the backwards dancing that we talk about now and again. To Gabba.
Yeah, what's it called?
The Hacken dance.
Yes. Yeah,
I would have liked him to have done that because he's probably very fit being a Formula One driver. So I'm sure he can do that dance.
Oh, yeah.
He could probably do
it for he's probably
an hour with no drugs.
Good. All right, well, let's bring this into land. Before we go, three things to tell you. One, Jonny has been hounding Gary Barlow, asking him to rewrite a 90s Take That hit. So it's about the soppier output of a weird 80s prog rock band, under the working title Marillion Love Songs. If that's not to your taste, then of course there is the Late Break Show on YouTube, and it's still barn fine February.
It's not just still. This is the grand finale, my friend. So the final, the fourth and final barn fine video on the channel, which has just gone live as you're listening to this, either Sunday night or Monday morning, and this is the car that we're giving away. We are giving away a one-owner 2,000-mile car, okay? So it's not a raffle. Don't expect you to give me any money, but I would like it to be won by someone that really cares about a car, especially a rare but nobody cares, highly worshipped example. And I'm not going to be one of these liars that says, hey, it's totally original, apart from the repaint and the engine rebuild. Because this car really is.
Nuts and bolt restoration.
This car really is unbelievable. And I need to say a massive thank you to Volkswagen, who actually let me take it to a dealership, and they have done a service on it, a 2,000-mile service, and MOT'd it. So the person that wins this car will have the most virginal of vehicles, and it's a delight, a real survivor delight. So I'd love you to watch that video and enter the competition. Thankings.
Excellent. Good. Second thing I've got to tell you is I have various books out. Steel Flies by Roy Lanchester, spoof Cold War thriller by made-up, disreputable car journalists, is still on sale on Amazon as an ebook or a paperback. And it's absolute nonsense, but some people seem to have enjoyed it. Maybe you could be one of them. And the third thing I've got to tell you is that the theme tune for popular home from school daytime quiz show Going for Gold was written by Hans Zimmer.
You are joking.
I am.
Hans Zimmer wrote the theme tune to Going for Gold.
Yeah, famous movie soundtrack composer. Also done some audio stuff for BMW EVs.
Yes, he has. He absolutely has, because I said in my review of the iX3, I think it was, Zim Zimmer, who's got the keys to my Bimmer, which I thought was really funny. But I don't think anybody else thought it was entirely funny, so there we go.
I'm laughing. Yeah. But yeah, he wrote the Going for Gold theme tune in his earlier career.
That's up there with The Dark Knight, isn't it? The score for the Batman, The Dark Knight.
Yes, yeah. No, it is. I think he'd label his towering achievements: score for Dark Knight, theme tune for Going for Gold. Anyway, on that,
it's such an embarrassing theme tune as well.
I know, it's really toss as well, because it's got lyrics.
It's really embarrassing. I remember it. It just is synonymous with me being ill from school.
Exactly. No, it's such a home from school when everyone else isn't kind of show. Well, there we go. Yeah, that's Hans Zimmer. I'm sure he's very proud.
I'd love it if Hans was to write to us. Hans, you know the address, the email address. So just
yes, or anything else you'd like to trouble us with. We enjoy getting your letters. hello@smithandsniff.com. If you have a question for our Friday show,
yes,
mark Ottersot in the subject line. If it's just a normal message, don't put that there, because we get easily confused. And we will be here on Friday answering some questions, back on Monday with the normal show. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
So you've enjoyed this podcast, but you've had a thought. Is there a way here today that you could show support? Well, you could join our Patreon, what wonders that it brings. Early shows and extra notes on that side of things. You could buy our merchandise, we've mugs and hats but still no ties. One day we will make those pies, but in the meantime, guys, hey guys, like and subscribe, and maybe leave a nice review. Like and subscribe, we know you know just what to do. Like and subscribe, we don't want to take the piss. Like and subscribe, but we were told to ask for this. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
The wait is on. The time is right.
It's time for you to come and play the game, isn't it?
That's it.
Because people are something and people are something.
People are coming, I think.
People are coming and people are trying.
Everyone's
trying to be
trying.
Trying to be the best
that they can when they're going for gold.